And I feel, Jason, even if you have someone who's dedicated to it, it's not just that person's job to make sure about client retention, because a single person cannot help retain all the clients. It has to be a combined team effort.
What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast dedicated to the digital agency owner that wants to hear stories from amazing people so they can grow their agency faster. On today's episode, we're going to talk about mastering your client retention, and I have a really excited guest back on the show. So let's go ahead and jump into the episode. Hey, Kushbu, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason, thank you for having me again. Super excited.
Awesome. Well, for the ones that have not heard the other episode, tell us who you are and what do you guys do?
Sure. So I'm the VP of Sales and Customer Services at E2M. E2M is the top white label agency across the United States and globe. So we help digital agencies to grow and scale their business with our strategic partnership.
Awesome. Well, let's get into it and not, and really talk about mastering client retention. So how do you guys measure client retention?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So basically we have kind of created a few metrics based on which we know exactly how we are doing in terms of client retention. So the first and foremost, and I feel the major metrics that plays a huge role in knowing how the client retention team is doing is finding out the client retention rate. So that is basically the number of clients you had in the beginning of the quarter. And then you also need to have a number of the clients that you have at the end of the quarter. So let's say I have 100 clients at the beginning of the quarter, and then I have 80 clients at the end of the quarter. So the ratio is like the number of clients you had at the end of the quarter divided by the number of clients at the beginning of the quarter into 100. So which is like 80 divided by 100 into the percentage. So my client retention ratio is 80%. So ideally the client retention ratio has to be anywhere above 75%. That means you're heading in the right direction. If there comes any number which is below that, then there's something that you need to retrospect with the team and kind of find out what's working out and what's not working out.
Yeah, so many people don't measure that or the churn rate, right? Like,
Right.
And it's kind of like if you want to lose weight, you got to constantly measure what you want, right? Like, because there's a lot of people that are losing clients and they don't really understand why, but client churn is going to happen, and it's actually healthy for the business if you can manage it, because now you can upgrade your clientele going forward, rather than when we all start, we get the $500 a month client. And then, later on, hopefully you've progressed to $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 a month client, if you're doing it right. What are some effective ways that you've seen to increase your retention rate? What are some things that you guys do?
Yeah. So basically, we didn't have a dedicated client service team until 3 years before now. So we just kind of figured out that, okay, this is not role of a project manager. It's not role of the people who are working with the client, but it has to be a standalone role where their job is to make sure that the client is happy and, kind of we are making progress and matching their expectations. So now we have specific people just aligning and just making sure that, okay, what the client's expectations are. So basically, just like how doctors have clinical notes, we have literally notes for every client where we mention, okay, what are their personal likings? What are their goals for the next 3 years? What are their goals for the next 1 year? Are they kind of keeping up with the new trends that are going in the market? So we kind of have all those details gathered in a way where we know in and out about the client. So that makes our job very easy to understand that, okay, this might work well with this client. We can cater his goals in so specific way. And this is how we can kind of match with the pace of the goals and the progress that he's making. So it's basically like, making it all custom approach where we have those notes, we refer to those notes. Then we get on calls with them to understand where they are at right now, what kind of evolution their goals are making. Because what happens is, let's say if we start working together, you might say that, okay, I need to close a $20,000 project or $50,000 project. That's my goal. But what after that? We met that goal, but what after it? I need to know that if you're open to expand your services, what kind of niche you want to target, and things like that. So it's like, keeping an eye and being curious to know more and more about your clients, that makes you go above the edge and do more than what is just meant to do.
Yeah. I also look at client retention starts in the sales conversation and setting
Oh,
up,
yes. Yeah.
the right expectation from the very beginning, kind of like what you're saying, what are the goals? I had a guest on a little while ago and I said, what was a big mistake that you went through that you learned from? And he said, I never and he used a great analogy that I borrow now. He's like, the client bought steak from me, but then I brought them the bill and I never delivered them the steak. Like, meaning, like, what is the end result? What's the result the clients expect from you? And when do they expect it? And making sure, because there's so many agencies out there that they say they knew how to do something cool. They started hiring their job, their services and their results went way down. Like, I can't tell you how many agencies I've actually personally hired that I've been so disappointed with their crappy results. Like, they couldn't be able to hit them. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
you're not going to be in business very long because, and you kind of tell. So I always look at it, it starts from the very beginning in the sales conversation, but then also too, we always look at when we sell a deal, what do? We ring the bell and we high five
Yeah.
each other internally at the agency. But the client, we got to think about, what is the client thinking? They're having buyer's remorse. They're thinking, did I make the right decision? So what are some things that you do when you onboard your clients that let them know you guys that they made the right decision?
Yeah, so we kind of ask them bold questions on the sales call itself as to why do you want to get associated with a white label team? What are your top pain points that you're facing right now, which you feel the white label team will be solving? So we have these kind of bold conversations with them, and eventually what comes out of that conversations is we can read what they exactly are looking for. So if I wouldn't have asked those bold questions, I wouldn't have ever known that, how they've burned their hands before, or just like how you said, that there's a large disalignment into what you're looking for, but what the agency is providing. So filling that gap between, it's just asking those right questions and making them comfortable so, they can candidly answer to your questions.
Yeah. One of the, I like that. And one of the other things that we did that I think everybody should do is when people buy from us, I will personally send them a personal video. And I'll start it
Right.
off with, hey, Presley, I'm so glad you jumped in. You made the right decision. Here's what you need to do now. Here's how to get the most out of what you just bought. And it's
Yeah.
personalized. And the funny thing is a lot of times I'll get a response back, be like, how'd you automate that? They
Yeah.
think it's like AI or something. Like, no, it's literally me. And then it just kind of assures them and be like, oh wow, they just didn't just ring the bell and kind of forget about us, and then the services just kind of go down. You mentioned
Yeah.
kind of something a little bit in the pre-show of, you guys are starting to use ChatGPT. What are you guys using that for?
So yeah, we kind of stressed it and tried and created personas that, okay, we kind of ask those kind of questions that, okay, if you were to be a client success manager and this would be a scenario, what would you do? But one thing that we are amused of using is basically, when we give them a persona of the client, that, okay, this is what the characteristics of the client look like, this is what the preference is, and this is what the pattern of the client is. What do you think they would like? So ChatGPT comes up with recommendations which might blow your mind, that, hey, this is something that your client might like, this is the link that you should be sharing with your client. So it's like it's creating custom content that you can share with your clients, which is exactly matching with what they might be looking for. So it's kind of, you don't have to do the needed due diligence, or you don't have to dig deeper into what they may like or they might not like. It's like, you just feed that information to chat gpt and let it do the work, and it gives you all the data which you can share with your client. So yeah, I feel kind of that's kind of breaking the room right now, where we're just kind of trying to find out how we can use and how optimized the answers could be.
Yeah. You know, I love a lot of the tools coming out that allow us to do that because my mind, and I think a lot of creative minds like mine work. If we see something, then we can kind of build upon that. But it's sometimes
Right.
harder with all these different kind of variables and factors coming at us. It's hard for us to get focused in such a clear state to come up with something. So when you can kind of use a tool like an AI tool in order to come up with some ideas and then be like, "Ooh, that's kind of cool." And then like, how can we morph it? That's the people that are going to really win. So I applaud you guys for using that. My last question is how do you guys balance the effort that you guys put into retaining clients, your existing
Hmm.
clients, to bringing new business in? Because I see a kind of like a roller coaster line, right? Like of
Right.
you'll focus really big on retaining clients, and then your pipeline goes down, or you focus on pipeline and then you lose a lot of clients. Like, what's the balance that works for you guys?
Yeah, so the balance is in a way that we are a strong, strong believer of that if you're investing certain time in getting more leads, you should be investing the equal amount of time in retaining the clients that you've already onboarded. So it's not like if you're going on a roller coaster ride and you just want to kind of hit the target and hit the bell and get these many unique clients. But if your churn ratio is going higher, then there's no point getting more and more clients, because in a way, at the end of the quarter, you are just same. The number hasn't increased at all. So kind of we do it in a way where few days of a week, let's say if you're talking about the entire week, then Mondays specifically are dedicated to kind of retrospect that, okay, did our existing clients face any challenges? Did they have any problem with the current team? Are we kind of matching with what the delivery of the timeline looked like for the last week? Have we kind of got those ratings from the clients last week? So it's kind of retrospecting more, talking to the clients more and more, and then feeling that, okay, if we are going on a right path, then it's like, we are retaining those clients, and then rest of the week we spend efforts into kind of getting new clients, getting on more and more calls, and again then you retrospect. So it's like, I would say giving some time to retention rather than just focusing on bringing on more and more clients.
Yeah, I feel a lot of times people don't focus on retention until they lose a bunch.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
focus on that, and then they think they solved it, and then they go on to sales, and that's kind of the ups and downs. I think too of like what you guys do is like you have dedicated people for each, and then they can kind of
Exactly.
control, like they're totally focused on it. But a lot of times agencies are at a point where they can't have dedicated people for each, and sometimes it's the actual owner, focused on that, and then they just drop the ball. But at the end of the day, you should be looking at and put it in the plan of how can I have someone dedicated to this? How can I have someone dedicated to this? Because if you're doing it
Absolutely.
yourself, you're going to be constantly struggling and you'll never have enough money in order to hire the right people. So it's kind of the
Yeah.
chicken or the egg, right?
And I feel, Jason, even if you have someone who's dedicated to it, it's not just that person's job to make sure about client retention, because a single person cannot help retain all the clients. It has to be a combined team effort. So, just like as I said, that we have specific days where we just talk about client retention. So, we have like 15 project managers, we have like 10 account managers, five customer service managers. So, it's like, we need to make sure that all of them are on the same page. People know that, okay, what our mission is, how we want to make our clients life easier, and then all are working in the same direction. So I feel it's not just going to be one person, but it has to be a team effort and a combined work where we are all making sure that we are kind of contributing a little bit towards the retention cycle.
I love it. Well, this has all been amazing. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
Yeah, I guess recently we did get to learn more about the CAC ratio, the LTV ratios. So those are the kind of metrics that agencies, or we felt that it has helped us a lot to understand that where we are at and which kind of positioning we need to make. So let's say, we had a really good LTV ratio, but the CAC was very less, which means we are heading in a really good direction. So I feel not just the retention ratio, the churn ratio, but these metrics will also help agency owners to kind of figure out where they are at. So not just calculating it at the end of the year, but calculating it every quarter to see if they are making any progress. If not, then you can just retrospect, kind of work on those things and make sure you have a good result at the end of the year.
Yeah, I always like looking at kind of the lifetime value of a customer. I also like what is the what's the average length that they stay with you, right? Like with our
Right.
agency mastery members, it's over 24 months that they're in the
That's amazing.
mastery, right? Like I think that's an important metric to look at and be like, how can we move that up? And if it's under that, because look, we're all trying to build an asset that we have an opportunity to sell one day.
Right.
And someone that's going to buy you is going to look at, well, how long do you hold on to your clients?
Right.
Like, and the longer, then it's more predictable and they're knowing what they're going to get versus, well, yeah, it was really good for you. You leave and the clients all go away. So those are always kind of KPIs that we're looking at on an ongoing basis, with all our members.
Yeah, and that really clears the mind as well. So you are not in a bubble that, okay, I did get 14 new signups and it's just two clients that just chose not to work with us. But when you actually see that matrix, you exactly understand that, okay, we have progressed from what the results were in Q4 2022, but we still have a good room of improvement. So these kind of KPIs really clears the air that you have.
Exactly. Well, what's the website people can go and check you guys out if they're wanting to look at a white label solution for getting some help? Where can they go?
Absolutely. So I would love agency owners to go to the site e2m solutions.com. We would love to kind of have you guys. And then we have a specific page as well where you get a discount as soon as you enroll. So yeah, head us up and kind of email me, or you can book a time on my Calendly if you have any questions when you go through the site.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. And everyone, go
Thank
check out
you.
E2M Solutions. They do an amazing job. A lot of our mastermind members use them. They're even part of our agency mastery now. So excited to have them. And until next time, have a swank day. Thanks.